Back in March, I had big plans for my spring knitting. New patterns, different yarns, and even some matching tees for my daughters. But now that spring is almost over, how much did I actually knit? Today we are comparing the plans versus the reality, the carryover projects, the new cast-ons, and the things that just didn't happen. And spoiler alert, it didn't all go as planned. So instead of filming just a regular knitting podcast episode today, I thought it would be fun to actually compare what I said in my spring knitting plans video to what I actually made this spring. By the way, if we haven't met before, my name is Annika and I'm coming to you from Germany. I am a natural yarn dyer as well as an avid knitter, and I basically love everything that is related to the fiber arts. Let's get started. So we're going to start with the winter knitting projects that I intended to carry over from winter to the spring. And let's have a look at what I said about those back in March. First off, I would like to give you an update on my winter knitting plans, because some of the items that I had planned to knit this winter I either didn't get to at all or I started them, but they are still works in progress. So that's what I would like to show you first. And we are going to start with a cardigan that I have planned to make for the longest time. I talked about it in my winter knitting plans video, and I think even in my fall knitting plans video of 2024. And I don't really know why I didn't get to it, because I'm very excited to make it. I think there were just a couple of projects that I was more excited about at the time. And the cardigan I am talking about is the Turtle Dove cardigan, which is a free pattern by Melissa Clulo from Sonder Yarn Co. And I already have the yarn to show you. I would love to knit this one in an unspun yarn. So this is Nutiden yarn in the colorway Vidunder. This was from their August collection of 2024. And I'm planning to hold this one together with one strand of a silk mohair. So this is a silk mohair from Sonder Yarn Co. And the colorway, is called Petrichor. So what's the current status of this project? Unfortunately, it is still a dream. I am still very much excited about this knitting pattern, and as you saw, I already have the yarn for it. I just did not cast it on yet, but I am hopeful that I will get around to knitting this beautiful piece in this gorgeous yarn this year. So next up, I talked about a project that is my longest WIP at this time, and it is my Nutiden dress that I am knitting using a vintage pattern from the 70s. Let's have a look at what I said. Next up is a long-term WIP that I had started last year but somehow lost steam on it, and it is my beautiful knit dress. So this project is a bit more elaborate because I am using a vintage pattern from the 70s called Open Stripes that I purchased for very cheap off of Etsy. I'm going to link it for you in the description box in case you're interested. And this is an all-over lace pattern, and I am modifying the pattern quite a bit because the construction, first of all, the pattern is written extremely short. I think it's only 1.5 pages, and it has a construction that was probably normal at that time but is quite unusual now, so I am heavily modifying it, and I'm also knitting it with a completely different gauge because I am again using unspun yarn. This is also Nutiden yarn in the colorway Apostrophe, which was from the March collection of 2024. And I'm holding it together with this dusty shade of pink. This is the Tin Silk Mohair from Sandnes Garn in the colorway 3511. And together they create this lovely colorway and this beautiful fabric. What can I say? I cast this on last September and it is still a WIP. I still really like the pattern and the yarn combination, and I would really like to have this piece in my wardrobe, but unfortunately I didn't pick it up in the whole 3 months of spring. Hopefully it will be getting more love and attention later this year. Next up, I talked about a colorwork masterpiece that I casted on New Year's Eve, and that I absolutely adore. It has been on my to knit list for the longest time, and I'm talking about the Ixchel Sweater by Catherine Clark. Let's have a look. And it's just a baby whip at that point because I have pretty much only cast it on. This was my New Year's Eve cast on, and it is a knitting pattern that has been in my queue for the longest time, and it is the Ixchel by Catherine Clark. This one was on the cover of Pom Pom magazine, I think in 2018, yes. And I have admired it ever since, but I was always very intimidated because it is an all-over colorwork project. But I finally mustered up the courage to start working on it, and then I really wasn't sure about my yarn choice, so I initially had started to knit the contrast color, holding it together with one strand of a silk mohair, but it somehow didn't look right. Let me see if I can show you. I only knitted one round, but it was just very fuzzy, and I think the intricate colorwork motif would get a bit lost if I had continued knitting it together with a strand of a silk mohair. So now I have to rip it back and then start again, and only using the contrast color as is. And the yarn I am using is again Sonder Yarn Co. So this is their Lux Sport, I think is it called. Let me check. Sunday Morning Lux Sport. So this is a blend of Blue-Faced Leicester, Masham and Cashmere. And I am using the colorway Cover to Cover, which is navy as the main color, and Stormy Weather is my contrast color. So unfortunately, the status of this project is that it is currently on hold. I am quite sure by now that I want to rip back and start over without using the mohair, so just using the Sonder Yarn Co. yarn, the main color and the contrast color that I just showed you. And I still would really like to have this piece in my wardrobe, but I am not working on it right now, and I hope I am going to pick it up later this year. So let's have a look at the last project that I talked about that I was carrying over from my winter knitting. I have talked about wanting to knit the Tweedy Shrug by Beata Jacek from Hedgehog Fibers, and this is the yarn I am using. This is the the Snevnook by Camarose, and the color is Murk Rosa 7338, which is a lovely dusty shade of pink. I was not happy with the fit, and that's why I have decided to frog the thing completely and make something else. And I just cast it on with this yarn for the Levitate Wrap by My Favorite Things Knitwear, which I think is giving me more of what I'm looking for regarding the fit. And fortunately, finally, we do have a project that did get finished, and I'm wearing it right now. Let me stand up for a minute so that you can see. So this is the Levitate Wrap by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I really like My Favorite Things Knitwear patterns. This is the third pattern of her that I have knitted in a relatively short amount of time. I think they are very well written. They are classic and just beautiful in my opinion, and I had the Levitate Wrap on my list for the longest time, and since the Tweedy Shrug that I had originally intended to knit with this beautiful dusty shade of pink did not work out for me, I was happy to cast on the Levitate Wrap. Unfortunately, I am not completely in love with the finished piece. It is a bit too cropped for my liking, although I did lengthen the body, and I'm not sure if you were able to tell when I stood up, but the body is quite boxy and relaxed, what I like, but the sleeves are very tight and they do fit, but I am wearing a long sleeve top underneath and they are just not very comfortable. And in addition, I am also a bit unsure about this whole wrap thing. I really like the style of wrap cardigans, and they remind me of those ballerina warming jackets, which I quite like, but yeah, I'm not really sure about that one. I have currently not sewn it down on the inside. yet, because I'm just not really sure about the placement. I did put down a stitch marker just to hold it in place, but yeah, I'm not really sure. It might get unraveled and turned into something else. I don't know. I was so happy to be done with it, and I love this beautiful yarn. This is the Snefnung by Camarose in the colorway Mörk Rosa, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It is a bit heathered. Not sure if you'll be able to tell. Yeah, I think you can see. And it's very, very beautiful, but I'm not sure if I will get as much wear out of the Levitate Wrap as I was hoping to, and I'm toying with the idea of unraveling again and reknitting the yarn into a different cardigan, maybe the Timepiece cardigan by Albina McLaughlin. That's what I'm currently thinking about. I'm not sure yet, but to be honest, I'm at a point in my life where I just don't want to produce as many knitted pieces as possible. Rather, I want to have a few select pieces in my wardrobe that fit me really well and that I am excited about wearing. And if that means that I have to unravel and reknit something, maybe even twice, that's okay with me, as long as I have this selected, curated wardrobe of pieces that I absolutely love. Okay, so those were all of the pieces that I had planned to carry over from my winter knitting plans, or that were already WIPs, towards my spring knitting. And let's have a look now at what I said about the new cast-ons that I was planning for spring. The first project that I would love to knit this spring is the RibWave by Joanna Ang. Now, this pattern has been in my queue and my favorites ever since it came out, because it just looks so beautiful and elegant to me, and I would absolutely love to have this piece in my wardrobe. The yarn I am thinking about using is again unspun yarn. This is Nutidin yarn in the colorway Tepar, which was part of their 2024 collection. I'm not sure when, I think probably in the spring. And I have 300 grams of that, and I'm thinking of holding it together with a strand of a silk mohair, maybe a pink, soft pink silk mohair like this one. So this is the tin silk mohair from Sandnes Garn. That is the colorway that I'm using for my dress, so the 3511. So I will probably not use this exact shade. I just wanted to show you how it will look together, but I think a pink would be nice, because I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick it up, but there are some pink flecks all throughout this neutral colorway, which I think is just very lovely and very special, and I think it would make a gorgeous RibWave. So what can I say? That's also still a dream. I haven't cast it on yet, and I am very excited to do so. As you saw in the clip, I already have the yarn, and I even already own the pattern thanks to a lovely viewer who gifted me a copy of this pattern, so thank you very much. And I have plans to definitely knit this piece later this year. It just hasn't happened yet. Next up, I was talking about the Short Tee by Anne Wenzel, and let's see what I had to say about that one. The next pattern that I would really like to knit this spring is the Short Tee by Anne Wenzel. There are several reasons why I like this particular pattern so much. I feel that it looks very elegant with this boat neck and those vertical eyelet panels all over the tee. And I also really like the fact that the sleeves are elbow length, because I tend to think that this looks a bit more elegant than a usual short sleeved tee. Anne Wenzel is another designer that I have not knitted a pattern of yet, but I would love to change it this year, because she has a beautiful design aesthetic, and there are a number of patterns of hers that I have in my favorites because they are just so stunning. If you have not seen Anne Wenzel's pattern portfolio, you should definitely check it out. I'm going to link it in the description box. So she knitted her sample in a sport weight yarn held together with a silk mohair to create a DK weight gauge of 21 stitches and 32 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. I am not quite sure which yarn I should use to knit my Short Tee. I was thinking about using the silk yarn, the pure silk from Knitting for Olive, maybe in the colorway Dusty Artichoke, to knit it, but since this is a light fingering yarn, I would probably have to hold 2 strands together, so I am not sure if this is the best solution. Another possibility would be to use a blend of a wool and a plant-based fiber yarn, like a cotton merino, for example, or cotton wool in general. And I was thinking about maybe using Wool Dreamer's Saona that I used to knit myself a sweater last year. I made the Maroon by Natasha Hornby, and it is a very lovely yarn that also comes in beautiful muted shades. And this would be another option. And the third option would be to use a 100% plant-based fiber yarn, like a 100% cotton yarn or a blend of linen and cotton, for example. And I do have some yarn in my stash that I think would be perfect for the shorty, and I wanted to show it to you. What can I say? This has not been cast on yet either, but that's mainly due to the fact that I am not quite sure yet which colorway I am going to use. I have narrowed it down to those 2 options now. So this is Nakyang Yarn A Linen, which is a blend of a cotton and linen. And I am toying with the idea of either using the cream colorway, which is the number 575, or this mid-tone blue, which is number 565. If you have any suggestions which one you would prefer for me, please leave a comment and let me know. So the yarn was very kindly gifted to me by Nakyang Yarn. Thank you very much, and I am really excited to be working with it, hopefully very soon. And if you would like to give Nakyang Yarn a try yourself, they do ship within Europe. I am going to put a link to their website in the description box. And if you use my code, Rosemary and Pines, all caps, you will get a 10% discount. So that's very generous of them. Thank you very much, Nakyang Yarn. And yeah, let me know what you think, which colorway I should use for the shorty by Anne Wenzel. Next up, I had another tee planned, and let's see what I had to say about that one. Pattern that I would absolutely love to knit this spring or maybe in the summer is the Right as Rain by Jamie Hoffman. This is a beautiful tee. It is classic with the V-neck and has this beautiful panel in the middle. Alright, so this is a pattern that I have now decided which yarn I am going to use, and I will be using the Nakyang Yarn A Linen in this burgundy colorway, which is the number 558. I also already made a swatch, and yeah, basically all I have to do is cast it on very soon, but I want to finish 2 of my WIPs before I cast that one on, and I'll talk about those WIPs in just a minute. But I think what has been keeping me a bit is, since this is a linen blend yarn, linen is a bit stiff when working with it, and I was just not too convinced that I wanted to knit with a stiff yarn at the moment. I go through phases. I usually do not mind knitting with rustic yarns. I also do not mind knitting with plant-based fiber yarns, which a lot of people don't really like, because the plant-based fiber yarns simply do not have as much give compared to a wool yarn. But yeah, the linen yarn was very stiff to work with, but the advantage of linen, on the other hand, is that it gets softer and softer with every wash. So I am definitely going to knit the Right as Rain with this yarn, and I'm really looking forward to the final product. I have just not started it yet. So the next project that I had planned was a rather big one, and let's have a look and see what I said about that. Next up is a pattern that I would love to make for myself, but I think I am first going to knit it for my daughters. So I'm going to knit 2 kids versions, and I am talking about the Sea Glass Mini by Wool and Pine. This is a wonderful pattern. It's actually a pattern series, because you don't only have this tee version, you also have a sweater, a cardigan, and I think a hat. So this pattern was originally created to use leftover yarn or scrap yarn, and you can use as many different colors as you like, and you knit one by one color work all throughout. This means that each version is going to be completely unique because everyone has different scraps and different lengths and colors, and I think this is a very fun thing about this pattern series. But what I am planning to do is use some stash yarn. I do have some 100% cotton yarn that I would like to use for my daughters. So the Sea Glass mini pattern comes in sizes all the way from baby to 12 years old. And the Sea Glass, I think it's called the Sea Glass Tee or top maybe, for the adults covers the adult sizes. So like I said, I'm first going to make the kids versions for my daughters. They are 9 and 11, and they have picked out the yarns that they would like me to use. I always check with them beforehand because I do not want to invest all the time knitting something and then they don't enjoy it and don't wear it. So we are going to use these different shades of blues and purple, and whoops, the yarn is a 100% cotton yarn from DMC. It is called Natura Just Cotton. I'm going to put up the colorway names on the screen, and I am very much looking forward to casting this on very soon because I think it's going to make lovely sea glass minis for my girls. Alright, so I am very happy to report that both of the tees are works in progress now, and I have actually gotten quite far on them already. So this is the one for my younger daughter, and as you can see I have already finished the whole body, and all that's left to do is a little bit for each sleeve. And here is the second version for my older daughter. The body is done as well, and all that's left to do is do the sleeves. So my older daughter had changed her mind on the colorways that she wanted throughout casting on this project, so I picked up another colorway of the DMC Natura Just Cotton. This is a teal color. I am going to link my Ravelry project pages in the description box for you so that you can have a look at the exact colorways if you're interested. And what I am doing here for both projects basically is that I have one main color and three contrast colors for each project, and then I am alternating each round with one of the contrast colors so that you get this blended look, and it's not really as scrappy looking as the Sea Glass Mini by Wool and Pine, but I quite like the way it came out. And it's very enjoyable to knit with. I really like the DMC Natura Just Cotton. It was my first time knitting with this yarn, and it's very soft, and I'm also very much looking forward to giving these tees hopefully very soon to my daughters. They are also very much looking forward to them, and like I just mentioned, as soon as I'm done with these projects I am going to cast something on for myself, probably the Ride as Rain by Jamie Hoffman. And then I casted something on that I didn't intend to knit this spring, but this is only due to the fact that I like knitting with the DMC Natura Just Cotton so much, and I also really liked one particular colorway, and this is the colorway here. It is the light blue and the number is 106, and I picked up 4 balls of this to knit a tee for myself. And let me show you the whip. So this is it here. It looks a bit strange at the moment because I am just at the point where I'm almost going to split for the body and the sleeves, and I think afterwards you're going to be able to tell much better how it looks. But you might be able to tell what it is if you're familiar with the pattern. So this is the Anker Tee by Petite Knit, which consists of this beautiful ribbed section on the yoke, and the rest of the body is knitted in plain stockinette stitch. And I am already at the point where I am doing some raglan increases in stockinette, and I think it's maybe like 10 more rounds or so until I split for the body and the sleeves, and then there is just miles and miles of stockinette, which I quite like. And I also wanted to mention that I had already started knitting this piece with a larger needle size. So I originally started knitting it with a 3.5mm needle, which corresponds to a US 4. And I was already at the point where I had just split for the body and the sleeves, and I tried it on and it was way too big because my gauge was just larger than the one in the pattern. So along the same lines as my Levitate Wrap, if I am not completely convinced that the finished object is going to fit me really well and that I'm going to wear it a lot, I would rather frog it and reknit it instead of just finishing it for the sake of finishing it and then having something in my wardrobe that I hardly wear. So I bit the bullet and frogged the whole piece and started again, but because it's so enjoyable, I got this done really quickly, I think within just a couple of days of knitting. And I am very hopeful now that this is going to fit me a lot better. I have not tried it on yet. I think I'll just knit past the point where I split for the body and the sleeves and then try it on, and if it fits, great, and if not, I'll rip back and make some alterations, probably to the amount of increases that I am doing at the raglan portion. We'll see. But overall, this is a very enjoyable project. Did I tell you what needle size I'm using now? I don't think so. Like I said, I originally used a 3.5mm needle, so a US 4, but then I went down to a 3mm needle, which corresponds to a US 2.5. And I am hoping that this is going to result in a much better fit now for me. Another project that I had planned for this spring is a pair of socks, and these are the socks that I intended to knit. I would really like to make the Poet Socks by Sari Nordland. This is part of a series as well. You also have the hat and several sweater versions with this same beautiful lace motif, but I think I would like to start with the socks. The pattern came out in May of 2020 and it is knitted with a fingering weight sock yarn. Unfortunately, it only comes in one size, and I really hope I can make it work because I do have this yarn, which is from my own yarn line. This is the Luster Sock DK, and this is, like the name suggests, a DK weight yarn. It is very tightly spun, so I might be able to make it work with the only one size in the pattern if I use a very small needle. I usually knit my socks with a US 0, which corresponds to a 2mm needle anyway, to get a tight fabric to make the socks last as long as possible. Unfortunately, I have not gotten around to knitting these beautiful socks yet, but they are still very high on my list, and I still intend to knit them with the ballerina colorway, so this beautiful dusty shade of pink. And this dusty shade of pink is created by dyeing yarn with avocados. And if you have ever wondered how to dye yarn using avocados, let me tell you, it is not difficult. You do not need a lot of tools and materials, and I think it is just so much fun. By the way, I have actually just filmed a video where I show you step by step how to dye a skein of yarn using avocados, and I am currently in the process of editing the clips, and I am planning to make a little mini challenge out of that, which is going to be completely free, but you can sign up for the challenge and I'm going to send you a video each day. I think it's going to be 4 days long, and in the end you will be able to dye a skein of yarn using avocados yourself. If this sounds good to you, just keep your eyes open here on YouTube, and I'm also going to announce it on my newsletter and over on Instagram when the videos are ready. And maybe if you join me in this challenge and dye a skein of yarn yourself with avocados, we could then even later on knit a pair of socks with our naturally dyed yarns together. So, although I did not get around to knitting the Poet socks, I still managed to knit a different pair of socks, and here they are. So this pattern is called the Call Me Down Socks by Isabella Clark from the 100 Acre Wool YouTube channel, which I'm going to link for you down below. And Bella had talked about this pattern, I think both in her YouTube videos and over on Instagram, and I really liked the look of those socks. They look a bit strange here because the cuff is so long, but I'm going to put up a picture for you so that you can see how it looks when I wear the socks, because then of course the cuff is bunched up and it just looks very cozy and nice in my opinion. So when I saw that Bella was looking for test knitters for this sock knitting pattern of hers, I immediately jumped on the opportunity and I was so happy to be chosen. And it was a very enjoyable test knit. And let me see, I knitted my socks out of Nutiden yarn, so an unspun yarn from the Swedish yarn company Honorok Air. And the colorways I used are Varsam and Nogran, and both were just leftovers from a different project, which of course is always quite nice. I held the yarn double, and I think in the pattern she intended for the knitter to hold the yarn single, but since unspun yarn is so fragile to work with, I wanted to hold it double just to give myself a more enjoyable knitting experience, and of course this also resulted in an extra cozy sock. The needle size I used is a 2.5mm needle, which corresponds to a US 1.5. And if you are interested, I used a total of 143 grams to knit both of these socks, and I wear a size 39 European. So this is, a finished object that I had not intended to knit this spring, but nevertheless I am very happy that I did and that I got chosen to be part of the test knit by Bella. Back to my spring knitting plans, I had also intended to cast on for a pair of fingerless mittens for myself. Another item that I would really like to knit this spring is a pair of fingerless mittens. I get cold all the time, even around the house, and I think a pair of fingerless mittens would be very helpful for me. And I also think that they look very beautiful and they also do not use a lot of yarn. There are several options that I am thinking about. I am toying with the idea of using the Cloudburst by Ariane Gray. I recently talked about this pattern in one of my videos about, I think, 10 different patterns that only need one skein of yarn. I'm going to link it for you in case you haven't seen that yet. But in the video I included the Cloudburst mittens because I think they look just absolutely beautiful with this lacy panel, and they are also a free pattern. Another option would be this pattern called Grit Fingerless Mittens by Agnes Brandes, and I think this one looks very cute with this dotted design, and it's also a free pattern and also something that I would love to make. And the third option is called Susie Rogers Reading Mitts by Susie Rogers, also a free pattern, and I think this looks so lovely and elegant with the lace and this mini scallops on the border. To be honest, I kind of forgot about this plan. I am still not sure which pattern I should use, and although I would really like to have a pair of fingerless mittens in my wardrobe, I think this is going to be pushed maybe into the fall or even into the winter knitting at this point. So next up, I also wanted to knit another accessory to keep me warm, and I had planned to knit a hot water bottle cover. I do have a hot water bottle that came without a cover and that I haven't been able to use, and it is also a bit larger than the standard size, so I did not find a cover for it, so I decided to make one myself. I think I'm just going to use a very basic all over stockinette pattern. I think there is one by London Leo, which I'm going to link for you. And I would love to add some special touches on it. I am thinking about knitting it in Nutiden yarn. I'm not sure which colorway I'm going to use yet. And then I would love to add some embroidery on top. I have embroidered different shirts for my daughters before and different bags and whatnot, but I have so far not embroidered on my handmade knitting projects, at least not on a bigger scale. So that's why I was having a look at this beautiful book called Embroidery on Knits by Judith Gumlich, and this was very kindly sent to me by Leine Publishing, who published this beautiful book, and I absolutely adore the photography all throughout the book, and there are some lovely project ideas. I just wanted to give you one glimpse as an example. So this has not been cast on yet either. I still would really like to have a hot water bottle cover, as I do have a hot water bottle that does not have a cover, and I would really like to knit it in Nutiden yarn and add some embroidery on top, but that is still a dream. But there is one more knitting project that I completed that I also did not talk about in my spring knitting plans, and that's simply because it was a more spontaneous cast on. I have a dear friend who has a birthday in March, and I had the idea that I wanted to knit something for her as a special gift because she was visiting from the US. If you have been watching my videos for a longer period of time, you might know that we flew to Houston, Texas last October, and we spent 2 weeks there together with our friends who are currently living there. And during that time, we all together drove to Big Bend National Park, which is the only national park of Texas. And it's absolutely beautiful. If you have not been there yet, I highly recommend that you visit it if you get the chance. It was absolutely wonderful. The landscape is breathtakingly beautiful, and we had an awesome time there together with our friends. And when I realized that there is a beanie pattern out there called the Big Bend Beanie by Nancy Bates, I immediately knew that I had to knit this one for my friend as a memory of our vacation that we had together. And that's what I did, and you can see the pictures right now, and my friend was very happy with this gift and I was very happy to knit it. It was rather easy, the color work is very simple, and I also really like the yarn. I used the Sandnesgarn Pear Gynt in different colorways that I have all on my Ravelry project page, which I'm going to link for you in the description box. And overall, it was a very quick and enjoyable project. I also had a couple of sewing plans for the spring, but I'm going to run through them a bit more quickly because most of them did not get done, but I did manage to sew the cushion covers that I had planned, and this is a very beautiful fabric that I got from my mom, and I made 3 covers in total, 2 for our couch here at home and 1 for my mom that I gave to her on her birthday. So that was a successful sewing project, and I am going to push the other sewing plans towards the summer, I think. Something else that I have been working on in the spring is a big spinning project. I am going to put up pictures for you so that you can see. I ordered 400 grams of fiber. It's merino fiber from Woolen Toe. I'm going to link her shop in the description box, and I can highly recommend her because I think she dyes just the most beautiful fiber. And I had ordered that large amount because I wanted to tackle my biggest spinning project yet. And I am planning to knit a sweater with my hand spun, and I'm going to put up another picture so that you can see how the fiber turned out. So I ordered 2 different colorways, and I spun all of the fiber into singles, and then I combined both colorways and spun them into a 2-ply. And this is how they came out, and now all there's left to do for me is decide which knitting pattern for a sweater I would like to use, and I am currently a bit undecided because I'm leaning towards the idea of a drop shoulder sweater because I think it will showcase the hand spun best, but I am not completely sure which pattern I should use. So if you have any recommendations, please leave a comment and let me know. But I think this is going to be very special for me to knit a whole sweater with my handspun yarn, and overall this has been a very enjoyable experience. I am also still toying with the idea of holding the yarn together with a strand of a silk mohair, just because merino is so soft and I am a bit concerned that it might pill a lot, but I am not completely decided yet. I think I just need to do some swatches and see how the yarn looks with and without a strand of silk mohair and then decide what I'm going to do. So that was the spinning that I did in the spring. That reminds me, I also spun a 3-ply to use as a sock yarn, and I'm going to put up a picture for you as well. This is from an Etsy store called Bridget's Welt. I'm also going to link that one. I think the yarn is a Corriedale yarn or a blue-faced Leicester. I'm not sure. I'm going to put it on the screen for you. I am planning to hold this yarn together with a strand of a silk mohair as well. Not only does the addition of a strand of a silk mohair yarn create the coziest, fluffiest sock, they also make for a very durable pair of socks. If you combine a sock yarn with a silk mohair, at least that's the case in my experience, and that's what I'm planning to do here. I am not decided on the pattern yet, and we'll see when I get around to knitting this beautiful yarn up. And I also did some embroidery in the spring, so basically covering pretty much all of the different fiber arts that I know how to do besides crochet. I think I did everything else in the spring, which is wonderful. And this was another spontaneous idea because I have 3 nieces in total, and 2 of those have birthdays in May, and those 2 nieces are sisters. So I usually like to gift them something handmade. Last year I knitted dresses for both of them, but since I was running a bit short on time this year, I decided to do something that is going to be a bit quicker to finish, and I decided to do some embroidery. The first shirt has already been gifted. I'm going to put up a picture for you, and this is the second shirt for my younger niece. So as you can see, I did a simple embroidery, just the letter of her first name, and then I added some flowers to it, and I think it turned out very cute, and I hope that she is going to like it. I think she really likes pink, or I hope she still really likes pink. You never know. Kids tend to change their favorite colors quite a lot. So I hope that she is really going to enjoy this shirt, and hopefully we'll get a lot of wear out of that. So that is my recap of what I had intended to knit this spring and what I actually ended up making. I would say some wins, some delay, and for sure a lot of beautiful yarns that are waiting to be turned into something very special. I would love to know how your spring knitting went, and if you would like to know how to dye a skein of yarn using natural dyes, please look out for my mini challenge with the avocado dyeing tutorial that's coming very soon. And in the meantime, you can also download my free guide on how to dye a skein of yarn using natural dyes that walks you through the whole process step by step on the example of onion skins. I am going to link that one in the description box as well. See you next time. Happy making. Bye guys.